Theresa here of Larkin Design. And so today I wanted to create a traveler's notebook layout using a digital template in Photoshop. I'm working with one that is available from On A Whimsical Adventure. It's called Whimsical Frames number 5, and I will link below to the product so you can go check it out yourself. And what I've done here is I've turned off some of the layers in the template itself. You can see all the layers over here on the right hand side, and this layer that you're seeing right here, or this image, is actually what I'm planning to print on vellum. And what I wanted to do was actually print out the illusion of the layers into physical product here. And so I've chosen these elements here to print on vellum. I've included the title, which I've changed to beauty, and then there are some floral elements, and there's also a little bit of texture here. And then once I print this out, I'm going to print this on 8.5 by 11 vellum. And then after I print these layers, I'm going to go back over here and turn off all of those layers and turn the layers on that I want for the printed pattern underneath the vellum. So you can sort of see as I go through what each layer does, right? And so where the textures turn off and on, you just click on the little check mark next to that layer. And so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to bring back the layers that I want underneath. So all the layers that I had on for the vellum, I'm going to turn off, and all the layers that were turned off, I'm going to turn on. There are a few that I'm undecided about at this point until I see the cardstock portion, until I see it completed here. The word strips are one thing that I'm not quite sure about whether I'm going to keep or not. And obviously each one of these layers, you can recolor these. I happen to like this color palette that it was, and it coordinates with the photos that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using some photos from the flowers that are in our yard this year that we planted and have nurtured, and so the colors here happen to fit for what I wanted to do. You will see in the blog post that On A Whimsical Adventure has published, you'll see other examples of how some of the other artists and designers have used these templates and how they have recolored them, I'm sure. But I chose to leave the colors the way they are. What I really wanted to focus on today, and what I really wanted to show you, was how you can interpret these different layers into real life product and print a couple of layers on vellum and a couple on cardstock, and actually layer those into your traveler's notebook. And so I'm going to be printing actually 3 sheets. I'm going to be printing the vellum already and the cardstock, and so this will be the cardstock. I did, in the end right there, I decided to turn off the word strips. There's an opportunity for journaling on this layout on the right hand side, so I'm going to do hand journaling. And then the third sheet that I will print out are the photos themselves. I'm using the photo templates that were included in this template. And so now we're here on my worktop, and you can see everything that's been printed out, and I'm going to do some trimming real quick. The traveler's notebook that I'm using is approximately 8.5 by 8.5, and once I trim them out, they're just a little tiny bit taller, so I'll trim a little off the top, but it's pretty close to the traveler's notebook spread. And what I'm going to share with you next is how I am attaching the cardstock and the vellum into the traveler's notebook. I'm going to score my lines on the cardstock here. And so you can see the back side of it is just left plain. That becomes another sheet of cardstock that you can use in your traveler's notebook. I am using a traveler's notebook that came from the Gossamer Blue subscription that was just freshly introduced in May, and I'm going to put this in the center of the notebook itself. So where the staples are, I've already pulled out some of the extra sheets that were in there. There were a lot of sheets of paper in this traveler's notebook. And so here you can see I'm just going to pull up the prongs from these staples real quick. And I'm going to unfold this, just checking to make sure that I have everything lined up. And I'm going to mark where I need, first off, where I need to trim. And so you guys, I got a new trimmer, a smaller one that hopefully will be a little bit easier when I'm trimming these smaller pieces of paper. So anyway, just a side note. But now I'm going to mark where these holes need to go, and then I'm just going to take my paper piercer and my self-heal mat and just lightly puncture those at the markings. There's all kinds of ways that you could do this. If you didn't want to put this in the center of your notebook, you could sew it in there, just to the accompanying sheets very lightly. That's one way you can do it. You could washi tape. You'd have an excellent opportunity to add some washi tape here if you wanted to add another layer or another dimension and texture. And then here you can see I'm just going to slide these two sheets onto those staples. And then I ended up doing it one at a time because it just worked out easier. So do it one at a time, and then fold those prongs back down, and you're in business. And so now hopefully you can see the notebook itself, right? And the printed cardstock and the vellum layered on top. Now, when I printed the photos, I put them into the template and turned off all the other layers except for the photos themselves and the light frame, or not light, it's really a thin frame that's around each of them. And I'm just going to trim them out here. You can still use that excess photo paper. I can cut that down to 4x6 and still use that, so it's not a total waste. And that way you know that you have the size correct that you needed. I probably could have printed them a little bit smaller, and I debated here whether I wanted the photos to go onto the vellum or onto the cardstock, and I decided to layer them on top of the vellum. I also have to make an executive decision about whether I'm going to trim one of the photos and place it where the template shows. And this is some of the flexibility that printing the product gives you a little bit. You can change the location of some of these elements, and of course you can do that when you're using digital templates. That's one of the tremendous benefits of using these digital templates like this, is that if you don't like where that title is, you can just move it, whereas a pre-printed paper like this will not give you that same flexibility. So that was sort of my goal here. Now, I knew that, of course, because I never leave well enough alone, right? This is why I'm a hybrid scrapbooker, because as much as I love digital templates and digital layouts, I can't leave them alone. And so I'm going to add a few sentences of journaling here, and I'm just talking about, these are two of my favorite flowers that we purchased and planted this year. We hadn't planned on adding these, and at the last minute when we were at the store picking out what we were going to plant, I said to Alan, I said, I really want new pots on the front porch. And so we bought new pots, and we got these really pretty there's pink geraniums and there's little pansies, and then we also got some mandevilla. I didn't include those in the photograph, but those flowers have just blossomed all over the place, and they bring me so much joy. So that was what my journaling was about. Now, you notice what I just did there is I took a little wooden butterfly. It's an older one from Studio Calico. It's just a wood veneer butterfly. And I stamped the floral element. It's one of the Dear Lizzie stamp sets from a couple of years ago. And I just stamped it in StazOn ink directly onto the wood veneer. And then I have these little paint pens. And I want to just lightly paint this rose and the leaves. So these paint pens, they just came from Walmart, but they are like literally acrylic paint with a felt tip here. And so I'm going to layer some of these colors onto this. I also have a green one, so a little bit of green for the leaves, and then there's also a gold one. And I'm going to warn you, this gold one was so smelly that I couldn't leave it open for long. So I didn't use it very much. And then I'm going to add there's a little tiny border included in that stamp set. So I decided to stamp that underneath the word beauty. And then I'm going to just adhere this using my glossy accents. And then this layout is done. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you'll like and comment and subscribe, and I'll see you back here again soon. Bye-bye.